Kyle here from All Media Reviews, Take 2, Albums of the Year video series that I'm still trying to figure out, but, you know, struggling with. 1967, starting to get a little more into my taste and familiarity, but there's still a lot that's sort of here and there, a lot of the sort of, you know, usual suspects. So I'm just going to go through the list. This is the second take I'm doing on this. So, number 16, it's 16 albums. A lot of these lists may have a lot more than that. It really depends. More of the Monkees, which features... which is the most well-known for, I'm a Believer, came out like the first New Year's Day or the first week of '67. Stepping Stone was also a huge hit, which is a Paul Revere's and the Raiders cover. And Mary Mary, also Nesmith penned that track. Let's see here, it's got a bunch of good songs, but you know they do better stuff. But you know, and this album was kind of controversial. From my memory, what my wife told me that they it came out, and the members of the Monkees didn't even realize it was going to come out. They just kind of put it out. It was an extension of the debut album. More songs they recorded that didn't make the debut album. That's meant more of the Monkees. But yeah, some people love this record. It's like their favorite. But you know, it's got "I'm a Believer," of course. So that's 16. Number 15, "Between the Buttons" from the Rolling Stones in this collage I'll have up here probably. Most notably, at least on the American version, I think, "Let's Spend the Night Together" and "Ruby Tuesday." Rolling Stones just, to me, don't have any classic albums. They just had a bunch of, like, famous songs. Unlike the Beatles. They weren't an albums band. They were more of a singles band or a songs band. Which the Beatles were a singles band, but became an albums band anyway. So number 14, "Smiley Smile" from the Beach Boys. Of course, Brian Wilson was working on "Smile," but never really finished it after the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's. He just was really, actually, after they released Revolver, he did "Good Vibrations," and that was it. You know, he just lost it. So, but this pales in comparison to what would have been, could have been, sort of did become later when he finished it, Brian Wilson. It has, you know, "Good Vibrations" on it, of course. It's got "Heroes and Villains," "Vegetables." You know, it's like an abridged, rough draft version of, you know, the record label's version of "Smile," which isn't the same thing as "Smile," which is on this. So that was number 14. Number 13, "The Doors," self-titled. They also don't have. Most notably, having both "Break On Through to the Other Side" and "Light My Fire." This is their debut album, I believe. Of course, they played Light My Fire on Ed Sullivan. They weren't supposed to. At least change the lyrics and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty famous debut album, especially those two tracks. Number 13. Number 12, "Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pill," most notably for those two songs that were everywhere. It became a voice of a generation. "White Rabbit," you know, the Alice in Wonderland references, and "Somebody to Love." Grace Slick, of course. You know, this was an iconic record of the psychedelic 60s. Haight-Ashbury, Northern California, which also have the likes of the Grateful Dead and Quicksilver Messenger Service and a lot of those other psychedelic bands. But anyway, yeah. "Surrealistic Pillow" from Jefferson Airplane, number 12. Number 11, right here again, The Who's "Who Sell Out." No, you know, again, I'm splitting hairs with some of this. It has, most notably known for, you know, "I Can See for Miles." It was a transitional album for The Who, but I think compared to A Quick One, it sounds more like The Who than A Quick One, because it's weird how they were just like sounding like a, you know, a pure British invasion band before that, riffing on the Beatles, basically, or the Stones, and some of those other bands that, the Kinks maybe, that were around before them, or were having more success before them. But, yeah, I mean, I know people that love The Who Sell Out. I don't have it, again, but I see as it would sort of be a precursor to, they do bigger things, of course, like Tommy and, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have any other sort of staple hits besides "I Can See for Miles," you know. And they did some covers on it. I believe they did. It's like the last, just like on A Quick One. And I thought I read that they covered one or two other songs. Some "Howl the Mountain King." Nothing related to the Sabotage song. Well, maybe not. Anyway, number, you know, so that's number 11. So number 10, we see the Monkees again with "Headquarters." The first album, they kind of had more control, or, you know, "Shades of Grey," you know, Randy Scousky had a Mickey Dolenz song. He penned it, I believe. He wrote it. You Just May Be the One, which is a Nesmith track. For Pete's Sake, which, you know, known for at the closing credits of the show. I think this is the second season, maybe not the first season, but just the second season. Sunny Girlfriend. It's got a lot of songs that people love, but it doesn't have as many famous songs. But I think a lot of the sort of fanatical fans appreciate this record more than some of their others. So, that would be number 10. At number 9, the prog fan in me had to include Procol Harum, the self-titled, which included Whiter Shade of Pale. Not much more to say about it. It was one of the earliest prog albums, or psychedelic music, which was kind of morphing to prog, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's a classic. Everyone's heard it a million times, of course. But that particular track. Number 8, the Moody Blues' Days of Future Past. Probably could have gone a little higher. Most notable for Nights in White and Satin. It was a concept album, one of the first concept albums, I guess. Maybe Freak Out came out the year before in '66, but you know, it was one of the earliest prog albums. Release date, I can't remember looking at the release dates when it came out compared to Sgt. Pepper's, but it might have been a little bit before. It was right around the same time, if not before. Maybe in the summer of '67. Because I don't have the release dates in front of me, unfortunately. I'm going to pull up my calendar. So number 6, the first appearance from Mr. Hendrix, Jimmy's Axis Bold as Love, which, you know, short-lived career. They put out all records that were really good, including many staples. Spanish Castle Magic, Little Wing is terrific. Castles Made of Sand, Little Miss Lover, Bold as Love, Wait Until Tomorrow, If 6 Was 9, you know. I loved Hendrix when I was in high school. He was one of my favorites, and he still is. I'm marveled by what he did, you know. So, Axis Bold as Love at number 6. Number 5, the third and final appearance from 1967 from the Monkees. Some people consider their best record the most, you know, sort of appreciated record. To me, it kind of is the bridge of there being pop and psychedelia. Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones, LTD. Has Pleasant Valley Sunday, of course, and that's probably the most famous song on here. But Salesman, a Nesmith song, and Door into Summer, also Nesmith. Love Is Only Sleeping. It has a lot of great Nesmith songs. Daily Nightly, Star Collector was Davey. That was one of the first uses of a Moog synthesizer. What Am I Doing Hanging Around? Yeah, it's especially my wife being a Nesmith fan, you know, and a lot of Monkees fans consider this as their peak. I'm kind of splitting hairs, but if I had to pick one, I would have a hard time not picking this as one I would listen to most frequently, Pisces. So, yeah, you know, great record. At number 5, number 4, the debut album from the legendary Pink Floyd, the Syd Barrett, of course, Pink Floyd, which did not, on some versions, the UK version, did not include See Emily Play and Arnold Lane, which was singles that had come up before that, but the US version does, and that's, I don't know if I'd put it any higher than number 4, but for 67. Astronomy Domine is my sort of go-to on here, but Interstellar Overdrive and Flaming. Flaming's another favorite of mine. That's Rick. Well, Barrett wrote that track. Syd Barrett wrote that track, but Lucifer Sam. I mean, it has some experiments. Bike, of course, also. The lyrics in Bikes is whimsy. The whimsical lyrics, you know. Yeah, and the funny thing is they were recording this in the studio at the same time the Beatles were recording Sgt. Pepper's, which would also suggest that the Monkees guys would have been down the hall, because there's photos of the guys in the Monkees in England. Maybe they were playing live or touring there. They happened to be there and they were in the studio with the Beatles. So, you know, they might have crossed paths with Pink Floyd as well. Anyway, Piper at number 4. So the top 3 are pretty easy to predict, but in what order? Adore this record, but it did end up finishing at number 3 for me. Magical Mystery Tour, which, you know, the title track, you know, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields. I've gotten a little burnt out on Strawberry Fields, but The Fool on the Hill is fantastic. Blue Jay Way, I love. I Am the Walrus, Your Mother Should Know. You know, Baby You're a Rich Man. All You Need Is Love is the one red herring for me on this album. I've gotten just sick and tired of that song. It kind of goes on, it's the tempo so slow. I know the message is fine, but, you know, on a record that it's adored, and I do revere in a lot of ways, that is the one track I'm not... It's like their version of Zeppelin's, you know, Black Dog or Rock and Roll. I've heard it too many times. And it's too slow. But the rest of the record, it's fantastic. The title track is great. I know the film was maligned, and I've never actually seen it, never seen the full film, but soundtrack, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Number 2, another awesome album. The second album, the second album on this list, the debut album from Mr. Hendrix, Are You Experience, Jimi Hendrix Experience. Love this album. It did, you know, in '67, if you were buying record, again, this is 9 years before I was even alive, I think it goes toe-to-toe with all these records, and that's why I finished number 2. Hey Joe, Stone Free, Purple... I mean, you know, yeah, those have been played to death by classic rock radio, especially Purple Haze, but Wind Cries Mary, 51st Anniversary, I love. I love the title track. It's maybe my favorite Hendrix song, like top 5 for sure. I Don't Live Today, Remember, Third Stone from the Sun. The trippy nature of some of the stuff is just off the charts. Highway Child is good. Red House is unbelievably known, even though it is a classic, you know, blues song that, you know, many other guitarists, Howlin' Wolf and, you know, Robert Johnson probably did many other times before Jimmy. I prefer and I appreciate Jimmy's version of Red House the most. But yeah, Are You Experience, unbelievable album, unbelievable debut album at number 2. Why I don't have it on vinyl is sacrilege, of course, but I never got around to buying it still. Number 1, of course, people expect, you know, it's been worshipped to death since it came out, whatever it is, almost 56 years ago. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, you know, the first concept album, maybe the first prog album in some ways. I mean, the Moody Blues, Days of Future Past, you could say, and Freak Out came out the year before, and that was a concept album. But the first sort of idea of, like, we're doing albums versus singles, it really, all of rock and roll history in terms of albums and modern music history of the last almost 60 years, this kind of is like sort of, yeah, rock and roll music can be a higher art form than just party music, party sounds, and stuff we can dance to. We can actually, it's an art, and it's a full album as like a scrapbook, picture book album, a testament of a recording of time versus just a couple little things here he did, a little song here, a little song there. It was not about the singles. I mean, A Day in the Life is, you know, a prog fan myself. My go-to if I'm choosing one track, and, you know, probably my favorite Beatles song. I don't, you know, like, you know, and this is sentimental because this is the first vinyl I bought in '87. The first Beatles album, obviously, I bought. And, you know, I kind of bought into a lot of the praise, and, you know, I think it lived up to it. There's only like 1 or 2 tracks I'm kind of A Little Help from My Friends is just so, I've kind of got, it's kind of vanilla to me. I mean, a lot of people like the message in it, but Getting Better, Fixing a Hole, She's Leaving Home is really sad. Lovely Rita, catchy tune. The title, you know, the opening theme, you know, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the theme, you know, even Hendrix covered that live. Good Morning is just a little ditty, you know. We played that when I was on KFAI when we did a morning. I filled in the morning one time. We played that, but yeah, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. That's the other one I didn't even mention. One of the most just like White Rabbit, you know, it's super influential into the history of psychedelic music and even prog, you could say. I don't know. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is not an album, a song rather I would listen to like obsessively, because it just kind of, the chorus gets kind of, it meanders a little bit, but I appreciate it within the album, and I appreciate its influence and importance, and it's not, doesn't bug me like songs like Black Dog or Rock and Roll so much that you know, I don't despise it. I just don't think, I'm not attached to it, but it fits and it works. It makes Sgt. Pepper's all the much better for it. Although I'll admit that I know that, you know, with Magical Mystery Tour, there are songs that were on there that could have made Sgt. Pepper's. There are songs on Magical Mystery Tour I would swap if I could make my ultimate. As much as this is a perfect record to me, I could make it even better. Do like the Sgt. Pepper's Magical Mystery Tour. Someone's probably done that. So on the verge of we getting probably the final Beatles song Now and Then coming out in this compilation just later today. Anyway, that's my list from the big psychedelic 60s year, 1967, San Francisco, you know, wearing flowers in our hair. That it was a massive year. It was a big transitional year for the history of rock and roll, rock music, 67. And, you know, like I said, probably going forward, I'm going to have, like, a lot more of my favorites. It's kind of, I'm reaching a little bit here with some of these albums, and I know more of just a few tracks. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Doing 1968 next, although I'm going to do some other videos possibly today. I don't know if I'll be able to do 68 today, but kind of making my way through these early years. Yeah, I want to try doing maybe some more React to songs on Spotify. Another React to maybe like on Prog Archives. Some other stuff I have in the works. I do have a vinyl collection update coming as well. I don't know if we can do it today because I'm waiting especially one record specifically. I did get a really cool CD in the mail the other day that I want to talk about. So, but again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you next time.